Good evening. Oh, there we go. Welcome to the December 6, 2021 Troy City Council meeting. We are honored to have Police Chaplain and Pastor Bob Cornwall here to do the invocation this evening. So please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight we do two things. One, I will offer a prayer for you as the City Council and for the community, but also in remembrance of those who died and those injured and the community of Oxford. I will lead us in a moment of silence. So those two things will be part of what we're doing this evening. So would you pray with me? Holy One, we come before you asking that your blessing would be extended to the leaders of this community as they meet to discuss, consider, discern, and vote on matters of importance. We ask that they might receive your wisdom so that they can perceive what is good and what is right. We understand that this is not an easy calling. These are challenging times. Pandemic continues to ravage the world around us, impacting this community along with every other community around us. They're called upon to lead the community at a time when division and suspicion run rampant in our society. Many in our land question the very democratic foundations of the nation that undergird government at every level, from local to federal. It's easy in these times to give attention to the loudest and angriest voices. Nevertheless, may each of these leaders, the mayor and the city council members, be provided the necessary wisdom to discern, again, what is good and what is right, so they can lead us as a community. And therefore, we give thanks for their commitment to the welfare of the community. We give thanks that they have answered the call and are willing to listen to all voices and then make decisions that are not always easy but necessary. As we pray for these leaders, we pray for the community. We give thanks for the people who dwell in Troy, for its diversity, for its staff, for its police and fire, and all who work here. We're enriched by the diversity that exists in the community, but even as we celebrate the diversity, we pray that we as a community would find solidarity with one another so that everyone can find their place, no matter their age or gender, ethnicity, or place of origin. May we therefore stand together and support one another as together we pursue the common good. And now I invite you to participate in a moment of silence, praying in a manner that is appropriate to your own beliefs for the 4 students who died last week, their lives cut short, their potential cut short. So we remember the students there at Oxford High School: Hannah St. Juliana, Tate Meyer, Madison Baldwin, Justin Schilling. We remember also their families who grieve. So I invite you to lift them up as well. And then we lift up the students, the staff, and the faculty of Oxford High School and the community as a whole of Oxford. May we as the community in Troy stand in solidarity with them. And even as we remember each of these children who have died and those who were injured, we remember the students here in Troy, along with faculty and staff, as they deal with the trauma. Before we take this moment of silence, I would like to share a portion of Psalm 28, a psalm of lament that also gives comfort. I'll share the first 2 verses, invite you for that moment of silence, and then conclude with the words of assurance that the psalm brings to a close. To you, O Lord, I call, my rock, do not refuse to hear me. For if you are silent to me, I shall be like those who go down to the pit. Hear the voice of my supplication as I cry to you for help. As I lift up my hands toward your most holy sanctuary, I invite you now to be in silence. Now hear these words of assurance from the psalm. Blessed be the Lord, for he has heard the sound of my pleadings. The Lord is my strength and my shield. In him my heart trusts. So I am helped, and my heart exults, and with my song I give thanks to him. The Lord is the strength of his people, for he is the saving refuge of his anointed. O save your people, bless your heritage, be their shepherd, and carry them forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Cornwall. Appreciate you very much. I now call the December 6, 2021 Troy City Council meeting to order, and I'll ask for the roll call from Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krenga?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson-Gall?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
All present. First up, prior to certificates of recognition and special presentations, we have a vote on resolution to waive the rules of procedure for the City Council, Rule number 4A, regular meeting agendas, and Rule number 8, proclamations and congratulatory certificates. Resolved that Troy City Council hereby waives the rules of procedure for the City Council Rule number 4A, regular meeting agendas, in order to add an item to the December 6, 2021 City Council agenda, and Rule number 8, proclamations and congratulatory certificates, in order to approve and present a proclamation at the December 6, 2021 regular City Council meeting.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson-Galt, that we approve the resolution as just read into the record. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson-Gall?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. We will be adding C4, a proclamation declaring support for the Oxford community. Now we move into those certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have 4 of them this evening. C1 is a proclamation celebrating 75 years for Kelly Services, and I'm pleased to be joined this evening by Amy Boak, the Senior Vice President and Chief People Officer, Human Resources, and also a Troy resident. So Amy, if you can join me down at the podium. Amy, thanks for being here. 75 years is very exciting. We know Kelly Services is a huge part of our community, so I'm really honored to present this proclamation and have you accept it on the company's behalf. Okay? I'm going to read it into the record. Whereas Kelly Services, a Fortune 500 company and global provider of staffing solutions, recently celebrated its 75th anniversary at the company's world headquarters located at Big Beaver and Crooks Road on October 6, 2021. And whereas Kelly Services was founded in Detroit on October 7, 1946 by William Russell Kelly, who is widely credited with pioneering the temporary help industry. The company operated initially as the Russell Kelly Office Service until 1957, when it was renamed Kelly Girl Service. And whereas in 1966, they became Kelly Services, Inc. to reflect the broad range of staffing services provided by the company. Kelly's world headquarters have been located in Troy since 1978. And whereas over the years, Kelly Services has grown steadily to meet the needs of its customers and has evolved from a United States-focused company concentrating primarily on traditional office services into a global leader with a breadth of specialty businesses. Among those specialty businesses are information technology, engineering, finance, law, science, education, healthcare, and home care. And whereas today, Kelly Services is the second largest staffing company in the United States and 5th largest in the world, with locations in all 50 states and 30 countries and territories. Each year, Kelly provides employment to more than 700,000 employees and offers a variety of employment options from full-time and part-time positions to temporary, to hire, to direct hire. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Troy City Council does hereby congratulate Kelly Services, Inc. on their 75th anniversary of providing employment to more than 700,000 people across the nation and wish them continued success. And be it further resolved that we also commend the Kelly Services organization for their longstanding tradition of giving back to the community. Kelly Services across the United States and around the world participate in various community charitable efforts, including food, clothing, and toy drives, as well as community service projects at local schools and women's shelters. This proclamation is presented the 6th day of December, 2021. It's signed by myself as mayor. All members of City Council have also signed. I'm going to present it to you, Amy, on behalf of the organization, and we're very honored to have Kelly Services headquartered here in Troy. Extremely thankful to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know what? Can you take our national statistics?
May I keep this up? Thank you, Mayor Baker. Thank you, City Council, friends, neighbors. I'm honored to be here tonight representing Kelly, a company with a long and rich history that Mayor Baker just told you all about. Celebrating our 75th anniversary has been a wonderful moment for us. We're also proud to call Troy our home for the last 43 years. In fact, having our global headquarters down the street has been an anchoring point for us through the generations. As you know, Kelly founded the staffing industry, and we're proud to say that in 1946. We've evolved through the years. We're no longer a Kelly girl, thank you. In fact, it was the 70s and 80s where we started putting men to work, just so you know, we sort of flipped the script on that. We have a passion for our noble purpose. We have an unwavering commitment to integrity and ethics, our commitment to our talent and our ability to find work opportunities for those that are sometimes having difficulty finding work. And we have a very local heart, just as you called out. And speaking of a local heart, I'd be remiss if I didn't share the pride I have with being with you tonight. I know I've got a little longer, sort of tenure here in Troy. I moved here about 47 years ago. Troy became my home. I was raised here. When my company transferred me back 20 years ago, we chose Troy intentionally to raise our children, who are now 2 proud alums of the Troy School District. And after 20 years of commuting to and from Detroit and Southfield, I joined Kelly in the fall of 2020 as their Chief People Officer. And it is with that, I thank you. I thank each of you. Kelly is truly a great company, and we're thrilled to call Troy our home. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I love Chief People Officer, Mark, just so we know. Did you name yourself? Oh, that's a good one. You should trademark it. All right. Next up is C2, a proclamation celebrating Troy Auto Care as the 2022 Shop of the Year. We have 3 Hudsons with us tonight. Donnie, Christy, and Frank, please come up and let me present this proclamation to you. You get to hear about yourself. Thank you for being here. Again, so this is a proclamation celebrating Troy Auto Care as the 2022 Auto Shop of the Year. Whereas Troy Auto Care is well known in the city of Troy and communities beyond because of owners Donnie, Christy, and Frank. You lined up nicely, thank you. And their team's reputation is trustworthy, dependable, and dedicated to performing outstanding work on everyone's vehicles. Donnie, Christy, Frank, and their staff are so knowledgeable and committed to providing the best service at fair and reasonable prices. And whereas it is always a pleasure to bring a vehicle to Troy Auto Care, not necessarily. I mean, you guys are great, but no. Anyway, sorry. Customers are always greeted by friendly staff who truly care about everyone they serve. And their positive attitudes and demeanor starts at the top because that is how Donnie, Christy, and Frank Hudson are. Friendly and personable, they truly care about everyone and care about quality and dependable service. And whereas Troy Auto Care was selected as 2022 Shop of the Year by the National Institute of Automotive Serve Excellence, ASE, and Napa Auto Parts. To achieve this prestigious award, a selected shop has to meet very strict criteria, including certification and training for all auto care technicians, general staff training, customer service standards, and community service standards. And whereas Troy Auto Care was selected as 2022 Shop of the Year by the National, I just read that paragraph. It's these masks, I'm telling you, I can't breathe up here. I apologize. We could read it. It was a really good paragraph. Sorry, everybody, I don't know what's going on. Whereas Troy Auto Care was selected from over 18,000 businesses across the U.S., each business is part of a division, of which there are only 6 in the United States. Michigan is one of 9 states in their local division. It is the division which is comprised of shop owners who decide who will be selected to move forward. The selection for this award is made by the Auto Care Center operators and owners themselves. ASC and NAPA have no part in the selection process. It is truly recognition by one's peers and a reflection of the standing they have amongst that group. And whereas one of Troy Auto Care's key strengths is giving back to their community and people in need, they sponsor programs that benefit the Troy community and never say no to requests for help. They have helped people in need by donating labor for auto repairs. Earlier this summer, they helped a young person get her car fixed so she would have reliable transportation to get to her community college classes. And they helped another woman who had lost her job due to COVID get her car repaired so she could continue job hunting. And whereas Troy Auto Care has sponsored Troy's Frightful 5K race since its inception, they sponsored sports teams, community festivals, Toys for Tots, and also Troy's Winter Wonderland. Donnie is also a dedicated volunteer firefighter for the city of Troy since 1994 and finds time to work with the Fire Explorers, donating quality time to assist where needed. He is currently the Assistant Chief at Station 1. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Troy City Council does hereby congratulate Troy Auto Care on being named the 2022 Shop of the Year. Troy Auto Care exemplifies the exact type of trusted business we welcome in our community, and they have reciprocated by growing and thriving. They recently opened their 3rd location at 2150 Stevenson Highway, and no better testament to a community where that business exists. And be it further resolved that the mayor, city council, and city management join the citizens of this community in celebration of Troy Auto Care's distinguished and well-deserved recognition as 2022 Shop of the Year, and also commend the Troy Auto Care team for their long-standing tradition of giving back to the community and helping those in need. Proclamations presented the 6th day of December 2021, again signed by myself as mayor, all members of city council. I'll give it, who wants? Christy, do you want it? You're in the middle over there. We congratulate you and thank you. Someone saying something? Oh, there you go, Donnie.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Your car repairs just went up. Thank you. It is truly an honor. City Council, thank you as well. We've been in business since 1958. My dad started Shell gas station. My brother Frank opened Rochester and Waddles in 1984. We have 3 locations in the city of Troy now. I'm proud to be in the city of Troy. We now staff 93 employees at all 3 locations. We're just proud to be, proud to give back to the community, proud to be in the city of Troy where we operate our business. We take and love the city of Troy, but we take our business and our employees very seriously, and we love giving back to the community. So thank you again, City Council. Thank you, Mayor Baker, and thank you all for coming tonight. This is a truly honor. We are blown away. I was totally surprised, but I want to thank you all for that.
All right, C3 is a commendation to Police Officer Patrick Dietsky and Assistant Fire Chief Paul Firth. Please come on up. Fancy. Yeah, that's right. All right. This is a wonderful story here. So this is service commendation for Police Detective Patrick Dietsky and Assistant Fire Chief Paul Firth on being awarded Fire Investigators of the Year. Whereas 13 fires affecting cars, homes, and businesses in Royal Oak occurred between 2015 and 2019, and a fire occurred in the city of Troy on April 14th, 2019, when a truck burned at a local Troy business. And whereas Assistant Fire Chief Paul Firth began investigating the truck fire and began an investigation that linked to the Royal Oak fires. Through the collaborative investigation between Troy Fire Department, Troy Police Department, Royal Oak Police Department, and the Oakland County Sheriff, a suspect was ultimately identified. And whereas Royal Oak police detectives interviewed the suspect, who when faced with evidence confessed to the fires, the suspect was charged with multiple crimes, including 3 counts of 4th-degree arson, 2 counts of 2nd-degree arson, 6 counts of 3rd-degree arson, 1 count of breaking and entering, 1 count of larceny, and 1 count of possession of a firearm during a felony. The suspect pled guilty to 8 of 14 counts and is serving 10 to 40 years. And whereas the fire and police investigators from a number of local agencies conducted investigations on multiple fire scenes that ultimately led to a solid case. That case was handled by Oakland County Prosecutor Denise Callis, who not only wrote the warrant, she guided the case to the court where the suspect pled guilty. And whereas Police Detective Patrick Diaski and Assistant Fire Chief Paul Firth were presented with Fire Investigator of the Year awards by the Michigan Chapter International Association of Arson Investigators, MIIAAI, this award was presented to those responsible for the prosecution and conviction of a serial arsonist who was found guilty of burning real property in several communities. Now, therefore, be it known that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Troy take this opportunity to express sincere thanks to Police Detective Patrick Diaski and Assistant Fire Chief Paul Firth for their professionalism, dedication, and contributions leading to the arrest and conviction of a serial arsonist. And be it further known that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Troy, City Management, and the citizens of Troy extends appreciation to Police Detective Patrick Diaski and Assistant Fire Chief Paul Firth for their dedication and hard work within the police department and fire department for the betterment of our community and the entire region. These proclamations are presented the 6th day of December 2021, signed by myself as mayor, all members of City Council. I have one for each of you, and I have to make sure I give you the right ones. Each of your names are on the top. So congratulations. We're so proud and honored to have you here tonight. We thank you for all of your work.
First of all, thank you, Mayor. Thank you all of City Council. Just real quickly, Pat and I began this investigation. We knew we had somebody that burned a truck. It was pretty clear almost the moment of the start of the investigation. And became clear it was an arson, which does make it somewhat difficult. As you know, is pretty well known. It's pretty easy to figure out a fire is an arson. It's much harder to figure out who did it. But through the help of the other agencies that the Mayor mentioned, we were able to do that. A couple things I just want to say. One, I think it speaks very well to the level of professionalism and preparedness of emergency services and public safety in Troy as well as Oakland County. I think it speaks well to the ability of our two departments to work together, as well as the ability to work with the other departments mentioned, Oakland County Sheriff, Royal Oak. And I think I want to finish with, I drew the investigation on this particular case, but there is no doubt in my mind that the other investigators that I work with, that I'm blessed to work with, show levels of excellence that would have done the same thing. I'm just the guy that drew this particular investigation, but every one of them I know would have shown the same level of skill and professionalism that we would get towards a conviction. So again, Mayor, Council, thank you very much. Very honored to be here.
Going to present C4 from the table up here. This is the late submittal proclamation declaring support for the Oxford community. Whereas in the wake of the recent Oxford High School shooting in our neighboring community, there has been an outpouring of sympathy, thought, prayer, moments of silence, and other forms of support. And whereas we recognize that this tragedy has directly and indirectly impacted family members, students, teachers, friends, first responders, medical personnel, educators, and counselors in the Oxford community and also throughout the region and the state, including persons here in the city of Troy. And whereas it is right and appropriate to express our sympathy and support for the entire community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Troy City Council hereby extends its heartfelt condolences and support and sends hope for strength and resiliency to everyone experiencing grief and trauma in the entire Oxford community and throughout the region, including those impacted here in the city of Troy, and expresses its appreciation for those first on scene who prevented further losses with their swift and professional actions. Be it further resolved that the Troy City Clerk is hereby directed to send this proclamation to the Administrator for the Oxford School District, the clerks for the Village of Oxford and the Township of Oxford, and also place it on the City of Troy website. This proclamation is presented and read to the record today, December 6, 2021. That concludes certificates of recognition and special presentations this evening. There are no carryover items. We move on to public hearings. We have two this evening. E1 is a public hearing, Community Development Block Grant, Cdbg, PY 2022 funds, and that'll be introduced by Community Affairs Director Cindy Stewart. Take your time walking up, Cindy, so we can get everybody out.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It is my pleasure again to present the public hearing for our Community Development Block Grant for the 2022 funds. Oakland County has advised us that we have $182,205, and we would like to put those into construction of a new park in Section 9 for $127,543.50. And then our yard services program for low-income seniors, we can only use 30% of that, so that would be the $54,661.50. So that's what we would ask council, that's what we are recommending that you do with our money for 2022.
Thank you, Cindy. Any questions from council? Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you for this, Cindy. I just want to know, do you have any other details on the Section 9 park?
If Kurt wants
Or
to
maybe
come up,
Kurt, yeah, if that's okay.
because it's still in the planning stage.
Right, of course. Yep.
We presented it to Oakland County just to see if they would be okay with this, and they said yes, so the applications do.
City Manager Miller, I'm assuming you're directing.
Sorry.
All right, thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Section 9 park, it's kind of taken us by surprise because we're not used to the census tract changing our low to moderate income levels. And this one in particular took us by surprise because we would have never guessed this area would qualify in the low to moderate income area. So whenever this happens, we look for specific sections that the city owns that we can use the community development block grant funding towards and consistently towards for the next 10 years. This is how Milverton Park was developed, and we're hopeful that we can develop this section as well. It is identified in the Parks and Recreation Plan as an undeveloped park, so we're going through that process and making sure there's no historic value to that with the county. The idea with this particular parcel is to do an all-inclusive park, so something for everyone kind of theme. We don't have that currently in the city of Troy. We have a lot of play structures that meet ADA accessibility, but we're really looking to progress the city forward and do something not only for physically challenged kids, but also socially challenged kids, and do something that everyone can come together and play together in one place. Hope that answered your question, Councilmember.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Any other questions? Let me open the public hearing. Anyone out there this evening like to speak on this item? All right, no one signed up, so. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Hamilton.
I'll move E1, public hearing, community development block grant, Cdbg, PY 2022 funds, as printed in the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, that we approve E1, public hearing, community development block grant, Cdbg, PY 2022 funds, as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. Looking forward to hearing more details as they're available. Next up is E2, public hearing to reprogram Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program year 2018, 2019, and 2020 funds, also introduced by Community Affairs Director Cindy Stewart. Welcome back, Cindy.
Thank you. When we do not spend money, we have to reprogram it as part of our process with the county. And I don't know if you, Mr. Miller, would like to call up Dennis, but we had our 2018, 19, and 20 funds were in a project at Firefighters Park. But the costs have come in extremely high, so we are just not able to do it. So when this park idea came forward, we thought, you know, this would be good because we have from 18, 19, and 20 a total of $300,265 that we could put into our Section 9 park. We're going to have to do a reprogramming of 2021 funds, but we don't have those yet, so that's going to have to come to you at another time. But that is what we are requesting, that we reprogram 2018, 19, and 20 from the project that they are in, the fund that the account they're in, and then put them into Parks and Recreation facilities so we can use them along with the 2022 money.
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right, when we open the public hearing, nobody signed up to speak on this item. Is anyone in the audience that would like to speak on E2? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
I'll move E2, public hearing to reprogram Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program year 2018, 2019, 2020 funds, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chamberlain Craig, supported by Councilmember Abraham, that we approve E2, public hearing to reprogram Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program year 2018, 2019, 2020 funds, as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly to say, I just want to thank city staff for identifying a very creative new way to accommodate the fact that if we hadn't spent this money, so residents know, it would have been lost. It was grant money, so we would have lost it. So instead, to found a new opportunity. And I remember back this summer asking if we had any ADA accessible sort of parks, and wondering what the vision in our city was as we were honoring Disability Month this summer. And so I'm so delighted to see our city move forward. So just thank you. That's creativity on the part of the city.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain Craig. You ditto. That's kind of where I was going to go. So any other discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes public hearings this evening. Now we move on to public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. We have one person signed up this evening, Ken Konwinski. Please go ahead and come forward. Remember, you have 3 minutes as per the rules. When the light turns yellow, you have 1 minute left, and when it's red, your time's up. All right.
All right. Thanks again for hearing me. And first and foremost, I really appreciate the temperature in here because I was freezing on the way over here tonight. I just want to address again the parking situation. I sent an email out. A neighbor of ours sent me pictures earlier this afternoon, or else I would have got them in sooner. And I sent some pictures along, or I thought I did, and I was promptly responded by a couple emails that said you didn't send the pictures. So then I resent them again to you guys. So hopefully you saw them. And basically the pictures just portrayed traffic backed up by Waddles Elementary with no cars parked on the sidewalk. My son's vehicle hasn't been there. He hasn't been there this week a few times because he's been early 6 a.m. practice at the high school for swim. They show traffic backed up. They show a woman walking in a ditch, which is fine, away from traffic, which is a suggestion that's been put on the table for this. In parking, no parking, the policemen have even said, no matter where in the district at drop-off time and pick-up time at schools, it's crazy whether there's no parking or not. And the last time, I was thinking about this for the last couple of weeks, and the last time I was here, I used an analogy of someone moving into a community, Emerald Lakes, for instance. You know, their kids don't know how to swim. And asking the city to drain the lake because their kids don't know how to swim, as opposed an analogy to walking on the streets where there's cars parked and there's no sidewalks. But realistically, it's the analogy of someone that lives 2 or 3 blocks away from the lake asking the city to drain the lake because their kids walk past there. The no parking situation realistically is going to affect our family only. And whether we park on the street or not, as by these pictures I sent out to you guys tonight and like things I've viewed over the last couple of weeks, it really isn't going to change this traffic situation or not. Our cars aren't there. Traffic is still backed up all 3 ways going into the school and out of the school. So like I said, if it's a no parking, it basically just penalizes us almost as the only one that it's really affecting. So again, thank you for the heat and thank you for hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kowinski. I think it's a little warm, but that's just me. Yeah, that concludes those who have signed up for public comment this evening. Now's an opportunity for City Council or City Administration to respond or reply. It's the next item on the agenda, so I'm not expecting anything. So we'll go ahead and move on to postponed items. H1 is the Traffic Committee recommendations and minutes from October 20th, 2021, which was postponed from the November 22nd, 2021 meeting. We've had the presentation on this item.
Mayor, City Engineer Bill Hootery is here to answer any questions, or if you would like him to do a little summary of the situation, he could do that too.
That would maybe be good. We could have that.
Okay.
Since he's here in person.
Make him earn his pay.
Yeah. He earns it, Mark. He earns it.
I think you all are aware of what the request is. It did come from one of the parents. It was supported by the school police officer, resource officer, and the crossing guard. Similar situation exists at most all of the schools. There are areas that are posted no parking, but even with those, there's still congestion. There's still backups in the morning. It's very time limited. 15, 20 minutes usually in the morning. Evenings can get a little worse. Weather can play into it. Get a day like today, you get some snow, wet, rain, throw in a pandemic and parents not wanting their kids to ride on a school bus. They want to walk, they want to ride in a car. We have a lot of vehicles on the road for arrival and dismissal. The recommendation from the traffic committee was to post the area no parking, so essentially both sides of the street would be no parking. The east side is currently no parking due to that's the fire hydrant side of the street. The northerly block closest to the school is no parking already. The subdivision has other areas that are no parking, but this is the area that was identified as a kind of a pinch point, but there are other areas around the school where there are traffic, not jams, but there's congestion and arrival and dismissal. Consistent with other schools in the district.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill? Councilmember Chamberlain-Cranga.
Yes, Mr. Hootery, just a question to clarify. When I looked at the minutes, I realized what was initially on the table for the traffic committee was to make it completely no parking on the western side. But then as I was reading the minutes and the comments, there was a compromise suggested, let's just do it during the stated times of drop-off and pick-up with school. And so essentially what the traffic committee took was something that was a little more extreme, and then they sought to find some sort of compromise. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's pretty common around the schools to have time-limited no parking zones. They are difficult to enforce just because if somebody's got a car parked out there and all of a sudden it's 8 o'clock, they don't necessarily run outside to move their car. So it becomes an enforcement issue, but most of the schools are dealt with that way. Most of the people that live around them, but we do have other areas where had been previously posted, and we've had residents call and ask, can we get the no parking removed? It'd have to go back through the traffic committees, similar as the process it goes through to get it posted. It would have to go through the same type of process to get it removed.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Abraham.
Mr. Hootery, you mentioned that the reverse could happen where someone could go to the traffic committee and ask for the no parking to be removed. Has that happened recently, or not necessarily in front of a school, but?
Down in section 30, the most recent one was last November, and that was, it was more of a side street, Witherby, down there. The frontage essentially along Witherby is all no parking. There's a side street that comes off that the resident that lived there requested that be removed. It had been posted no parking for many, many years, and it was subsequently recommended to be removed and was removed. So that's the most recent one. Prior to that, it's been quite a while. I am working with our consultants, OHM, to go through all of the Troy School District, all of the schools to look at school zones, signing, striping, speed limits, that kind of stuff. So that's something we're hopeful to take to the traffic committee in February if we can get it all put together. No parking is not technically part of that, just because it's kind of a different scope of service from a school zone, but somewhat related. And if we do get some type of those types of requests, we may try and incorporate it into that larger look at the school. The superintendent, Micheski, asked that we look at their schools.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, I'll move the resolution to get it on the table for discussion. I'll move H1 Traffic Committee recommendations and minutes from October 20th, 2021 as printed.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain-Kranga to approve H1 Traffic Committee recommendations and minutes from the October 20th, 2021 meeting. Discussion. Councilmember Chamberlain-Kranga.
I'll kick us off in the conversation because I know we probably have quite a bit to say. To start, having just come off an election, I can say with some degree of confidence that really one of the top 2 to 3 issues that we really heard from residents around the city was around traffic safety. It's a serious issue. So I did take it seriously and drive down there and spend time. And, of course, I studied the maps, I studied the minutes, but I made sure to drive. And literally, I drove probably more than 5 times back and forth down Ellenboro to check it out and around the neighborhood to really understand that, those safety concerns. And a couple of things that struck me. So one thing that stood out to me, and the engineers can probably comment more on this, is when you drive from south to north in Ellenboro and you pass Trunway, the road swerves a little bit. And I'm thinking about buses that go down there, buses with a higher center of gravity. And it's a small, but you feel it much more when you're actually in your car. And again, thinking of a higher center of gravity in a bus. And then you come down a road that's already quite narrow. And if you have cars parked on there, the bus has to swerve again, move a little bit around those cars that are parked there. And I just, as a mother with a son who rides a bus with a school-aged child, I can't help but to say that there is a safety concern with that. And then you add to that pedestrians, you add to that congested traffic, walking, driving into an already narrow street, and buses potentially having to swerve and move. And I just think that's a recipe for danger. I have to say that. And I recognize this is an inconvenience to families who use that for parking, and I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry for that inconvenience. As I asked for clarification, I did spend time with the minutes. I really wanted to see what did all the residents who turned out had to say. And I was struck by the one resident who was opposed to it, didn't want to make it no parking, and suggested, actually, let's find a compromise. Let's just do it during the hours of the school. Drop off and pick up when it's most congested. And another person who we've heard from who is opposed also, at some point in the minutes, you can read them, admits that it would add more safety if you had during just these hours. So I just feel based on that, and when I sit in this seat, my role is to make decisions based on the health, safety, and welfare of the whole community. And I've tried to think, what would be the argument if I denied this recommendation? What is the health, safety, and welfare argument for that? And I can't come up with one. So for that reason, I have to support the recommendation of the Traffic Committee, and I will be doing so. And I am sorry it's an inconvenience.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Kranga. Anyone else? Yeah. Councilmember Hamilton?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Councilmember Chamberlain-Kranga. It's also very persuasive to me that the school resource police officer, and crossing guards agreed that this would be this would increase safety, so I'm going to support this.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Abraham?
Thank you, Mayor. When I look at this proposal, this recommendation from the traffic committee, I don't see it as a recommendation for traffic mitigation. I see it more as a mitigation of some safety concerns, particularly pedestrian safety. We know we're dealing with a fairly narrow road, and there are no sidewalks. And Mr. Konwinski, you mentioned in the picture, and I noticed it too, there was someone, walking, it was, near a ditch or in the ditch. Not all ditches are dry, so what do you do if it's wet? What do you do if there's snow piling up, snow banks that are making a narrow street more narrow? Right now, we have all these conditions that make what would be, even in the best of times, a pretty difficult traffic safety situation, and it's making it more difficult. And that is the main factor that I'm looking at is, the general welfare of those that are in the area, either walking, biking, driving to school in a bus or in their parents' car. I'm very sorry that there could be an inconvenience to your family. I was the youngest of 4, so I always had to park in the street, and sometimes I was walking pretty far. So I understand the convenience part very well. But when I look at the total picture and what I'm obligated to do in terms of watching out for all city residents, I do feel compelled to support the recommendation. With that, I do think, there is a broader conversation. It sounds like that's happening. There may be some recommendations in February that could impact things. And there is, a protocol if it turns out that maybe this is not the right thing to do, if this were to pass tonight. I don't know if it will. So with that, I will sum up by saying I will be supporting the recommendation, but certainly, if this is something that needs to be reconsidered in the future, there's a protocol in which that can be considered.
Thank you, Councilmember Abraham. Anyone else? I just have some brief comments on it. I needed some extra time at the last meeting. I've read the emails from the Kowinskis. I've heard you speak 2 meetings in a row. I've read emails from other members of the community. And I'm also heard my colleagues tonight and the points they've made. And I can't disagree with really anything that any of you have said. That's part of the issue I've taken with it. I am struck by the feeling that it is most unfair to your family because it's such a small space. And I'm also really loath to go against the recommendations of the traffic committee, who we appoint and count to really vet these processes, our first responders, the school district itself, the school employees. So it makes it tough for me, especially as someone who likes to please people. I'll be honest with you, I don't like to say no to somebody, but unfortunately for your family, I feel like I'm going to have to support this evening. I do think we have to err on the side of health, safety, and welfare, and I'm not certain it's going to make a big difference in light of what I see in that neighborhood, but with the recommendations that have come to us, I think it would be a mistake for me to vote otherwise this evening. To your son, who is trying to be healthy and ride his bike to school, and although if he's riding today, I think he's nuts with this weather, but I don't want to discourage that for him. I mean, I think that's an amazing thing as well, and please share that. But I know it's an inconvenience. Maybe it's probably more than an inconvenience for you at times than others, but it is the right thing to at least try this out based on the recommendations by all parties involved. And like Councilmember Abraham said, and Mr. Hootery said, if there is a procedure, if things change in the future when more people are riding buses and there's less cars, or if there's new recommendations, then there is that option to potentially have it changed. But I will be supporting it this evening. So I'll call for the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt,
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes postponed items this evening. Next up is regular business. Board and committee appointments. First, there are no mayoral appointments this evening. We do have some council appointments, so I'll call on Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt for the council appointments.
Thank you, Mayor. I did these separately last time, but I think I'm going to move it along because I think this is an uncontroversial appointment. So I would like to appoint Council Member Teresa Brooks to the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees, the Retiree Healthcare Benefits Plan and Trust, and the Volunteer Firefighters Incentive Plan Board for the term that expires at the end of the council term.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt and supported by Councilmember Hamilton that we approve the appointment of Councilmember Teresa Brooks to the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees, Retiree Healthcare Benefits Plan and Trust, and Volunteer Firefighters Incentive Plan Board for the terms that expire at the end of her council term. Any discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
Just want to say it was an honor for City Council to entrust me on this board for the last 4 years. Thanks to this council's leadership, our city staff's leadership, our financial team's leadership, this is one of the biggest points of strength for the city of Troy is our retirement pension funds are overfunded if you take them as a whole, and that saves the city millions and millions of dollars a year and saves the residents of our city tax dollars. And I'm really happy with where this is, and I thank Councilmember Brooks for stepping up to serve this next term. I'll definitely support it, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll really get a sense of the city's finances and how strong we are. So thank you for that.
Any other discussion? I have a quick question. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the form. The Volunteer Firefighter Incentive Plan Board, it says printed here that it's appointed by mayor, but that should be council, correct?
I think the resident is appointed by the mayor, but the council member is appointed by the council. It's really weird, but
Okay, I just want to
remember-
make
yeah.
sure it's not a typo. It needs to be addressed. I'm stickler about that stuff.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that to see.
That's
Off the
fine.
top of my head, I don't have it in front of me.
That's
But
fine. I'm sorry to catch. I just saw it as I was going through this. City Attorney Bloom?
We did check into this at the last time before the nomination was made, and so it was a council position, so I think that there is an accurate, it is a council appointment.
Okay, thank you. All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt,
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Teresa. And thank you, David. That wasn't my attempt to try to sabotage the nomination. Next meeting. No, I'm kidding. All right, next up, I2 Board and Committee nominations. First up are mayoral nominations. I have a couple this evening. I'd like to nominate to the Local Development Finance Authority, LDFA, Councilmember Ellen Hoderick as an alternate for the term that expires upon the conclusion of her term, and Sandra Backert as a resident member for the unexpired term expiring June 30th, 2023.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga, that I nominate Ellen Hoderick as the alternate to the LDFA and Sandra Backert as an unexpired term, for the unexpired term as a resident member for June 30th, 2023. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Motion carries. And to the Planning Commission, I'd like to renominate Michael Hudson, Dave Lambert, and John Tagle for the terms expiring December 31st, 2024.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Abraham, that we approve the nomination of Michael Hudson, Dave Lambert, and John Tagle to the Planning Commission for the terms expiring December 31st, 2024. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes mayoral nominations this evening. I move on to city council nominations and call on Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. Give me a second here. Okay. A lot of- Okay, so I would like to, for the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, I would like to nominate Councilmember David Hamilton for the term that expires on November 13th, 2023.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Craig, that we approve the nomination of Councilmember David Hamilton to the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments for the term that expires November 13th, 2023. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And the other nomination is for the Traffic Committee. The nomination for the student member of the committee, I would like to nominate Tyler Korolewski for the term that expires on July 31st, 2022.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve the nomination of Tyler Korolewski as the student representative to the Traffic Committee for the term that expires July 31st, 2022.
I did not.
Hoderick.
You mean Hoderick?
Hoderick.
Yeah.
Hamilton, Hoderick. Okay. I did mean Hoderick, actually. That's strange, huh?
Yes. You got me in your.
I don't need to repeat it. You got me. All right, thank you. Any discussion?
We got to watch you tonight.
All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes. Motion carries. Nothing else this evening, right? All right, that concludes city council nominations for boards and committees this evening. There's no closed session requested this evening. So we move on to I-4, which is a request to repeal and amend ordinances. Repeal Chapter 68, Amusements and Recreation Places, Chapter 71, Auto Wash Motor Vehicle Laundry, Chapter 96, Billiard Parlors, Pool Rooms, and Chapter 97, Coin-Operated Amusement Devices and Arcades, and amend Chapter 60, Fees and Bonds Required. And that'll be introduced by City Clerk Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The chapters listed before you on this resolution all require annual licenses for small businesses in Troy. Many of these licenses have substantial fees associated with them, as high as $5,000 per year. In 2020, City Council approved the waiver of the licensing requirements for these licenses in order to reduce the financial burden on those small businesses during the COVID shutdowns. City administration is now asking that Council permanently repeal these ordinances to make that relief for those businesses permanent. There are other sections of these chapters that regulate certain aspects of these businesses, but the departments involved in approving those licenses have all supported the repeal of these ordinances. So city administration asks that you approve the amendments also to Chapter 60, which removes the fees associated with those licenses, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, City Clerk Dixon. Is there any questions from council? Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Just a quick question. I remember when we passed this waiver, the temporary one, last year, and knowing that some of these are small businesses, it's good to do that. I imagine it feels like red tape sometimes to some of these businesses, and I just wondered, have you gotten any input, at least in the last year when we had the temporary waiver, any input that they appreciated it, that it was helpful to them, and just to hear what they had to say?
Yes, actually, when we notified the businesses that the license requirements had been waived for the year, they were very grateful, especially certain businesses that had some of the higher fees in the thousands of dollars, because that's a substantial part of their income for the year that they would have to pay out for a license fee. A lot of times it's for video games. So if you think about a business such as, say, Skate World, for example, that has to pay thousands of dollars in a fee just to have some, like the small arcade that they have there, the threat that those video games pose to like the health, safety, and welfare of the city is virtually none. So for them to have to pay that fee, it was a big burden for them during the time when they were struggling just to even have revenue coming in. So they were very grateful to have that relief.
Thank you. Good question. Any other questions? Want to move the resolution? Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move I-4, request to repeal and amend ordinances, repeal Chapter 68 Amusements and Recreation Places, Chapter 71 Auto Wash Motor Vehicle Laundry, Chapter 96 Billiard Parlors, Pool Rooms, and Chapter 97 Coin-Operated Amusement Devices and Arcades, and amend Chapter 60 Fees and Bonds Required as printed in the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve I-4, request to repeal and amend ordinances, repeal Chapter 68 Amusements and Recreation Places, Chapter 71 Auto Wash Motor Vehicle Laundry, Chapter 96 Billiard Parlors, Pool Rooms, and Chapter 97 Coin-Operated Amusement Devices and Arcades, and amend Chapter 60 Fees and Bonds Required as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
Just one question. How will all the businesses that this apply to be informed that they won't have to do this? Will they get something in the mail, or how does that work?
We'll be notifying them by their preferred contact method that we use to speak with them about any business-related issue. We'll send them a letter also, but we'll also be calling or sending emails tomorrow to let them know.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. And next up is I-5, Budget Amendment and Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Program, ladder truck for the fire department. And I see Chief Reester coming forward to present. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Tonight, I have a presentation for you, short presentation. As you know, the fire department operates a large fleet of fire trucks from 6 fire stations. By maintaining this large fleet, that affords us the ability to provide diversification, efficiency, and safety in our community. A large fleet also allows us to meet the various components of the insurance services organization, the National Fire Protection Association, both of whom establish standards and requirements for the fire service. Like any vehicle or piece of equipment, each has an expected service life. Ladder 2 is a 1994 model, was assigned at Fire Station 2, and it was approaching its expected service life of 28 to 30 years when, while being driven to a vendor location for repairs, the engine experienced a catastrophic failure. It was quickly determined that the damage to the engine of Ladder 2 could not be replaced cost effectively. Ladder 2 was slated to be replaced in the upcoming budget year of 22-23, as this type of vehicle requires an average of 12 to 16 months of build time due to its specialty design and its use. The original pricing we received indicated that if we purchased it before January 1st, we would save 8% on the price. Within a week, that estimate changed to 11%. So the costs are going up quickly. So after evaluating the pricing, the construction time, the forecasted cost increased, and the fact that this vehicle was slated to be replaced in the upcoming budget year, the fire department, with input and support from city management, determined it would be in the best interest of the city to order a new truck now. So at this time, I'm prepared to answer your questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? All right, I'll move I-5, Budget Amendment and Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Program, ladder truck for the fire department, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve I-5, Budget Amendment and Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Program, ladder truck for the fire department. Any discussion? I'll just say, we appreciate you, as always, and the entire department, and always happy to help when we can. So this is one of those places that's important, so thank you. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Motion carries. Please let us know in a couple of years when it's here so we can see it. Take some pictures.
Absolutely. I would like to make one other comment for the public that's listening. The cold weather is upon us. Houses are closing up. We remind our community to please check your smoke alarms, have a plan to get out. My department has been very busy over the last 24 hours. We responded to Madison Heights for a major building fire. We responded to Bloomfield Hills for a major house fire. We don't want people to get caught inside of these homes. So make sure you have a working smoke alarm, have a meeting place outside. If you need us, call us.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Next up is I-6, Standard Purchasing Resolution 11, Rejection of Bids, Radiant Tube Heater Equipment and Bid Waiver, Reverber Infrared Heating Equipment and Parts, and that'll be introduced by Dennis Trantham, our Facilities and Grounds Operation Manager. Good evening, Dennis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a not common standard purchasing resolution, number 11. It's rejection of bids. So as a city, we went out to bid for radiant tube heat. What we found was that this International Radiant Mechanical Systems is the regional dealer for Reverber products, which are in many of our fire stations and our streets equipment garage. So we rejected the bids that were received because they weren't authorized resellers. The problem comes if we have to warranty anything and they weren't purchased from an authorized distributor. A lot of times the manufacturers won't honor the warranties. So before you tonight is a request for a bid waiver for Reverber infrared heating equipment from International Radiant Mechanical Systems of Chesterfield Township. This will be much like the Lennox bid waiver that you approved earlier in November, where we will purchase equipment on an ongoing basis from them. Any capital purchases over $10,000, council will still see and approve. It just removes the bid process. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Any questions? I want to move this resolution. Councilmember Hoderick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move I-6, Standard Purchasing Resolution 11, Rejection of Bids, Radiant Tube Heater Equipment and Bid Waiver, Reverber Infrared Heating Equipment and Parts, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hoderick, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve I-6, Standard Purchasing Resolution 11, Rejection of Bids, Radiant Tube Heater Equipment and Bid Waiver, Reverber Infrared Heating Equipment and Parts, as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is I-7, Recommended Pay Ranges for Part-Time Classifications, and that'll be introduced by Jeanette Menig, our Human Resources Director, Chief People Officer to be. No? Hi, Jeanette.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item I brought before you today is our update to the classification and pay ranges for part-time positions. The part-time pay ranges were last updated in 2019, and most ranges have increased by approximately 10%. Again, in the paperwork I submitted at that time, when I submitted it for the agenda, the state of Michigan had not yet confirmed the change to minimum wage, but very timely, on Friday, they did confirm that. So the minimum wage will now be $9.87 per hour effective January 1st. And in the totality of the submission, the minimum wage is just one part. The majority is the market competitive changes for the ranges. And city management recommends approval of the 2022 pay ranges for part-time classifications. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jeanette. Any questions? Want to move the resolution? Councilmember Abraham?
I'll move I-7, Recommended Pay Ranges for Part-Time Classifications, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Abraham, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, that we approve I-7 recommended pay ranges for part-time classifications as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Chamberlain-Crainga.
I just want to say quickly, I know looking at many of these different positions that are impacted, and I know it's been a hard time hiring for many of those different positions, and anything we can do to seek to be competitive, and even it sounds like merit might be possible in some different roles, that is wonderful. That's great. So I'm very proud to support this.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Crainga. Any other comments? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Crainga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes regular business this evening. We move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone from council like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Councilmember Abraham.
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Abraham, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
I just wanted to quickly point attention to J5, which is approval of a contract for widening, the first stage of widening Rochester Road from 5 to 6 lanes from Barclay to Trunway. This is something that's been in the works for a long time, since 2002 actually. This has been talked about and pushed around, and I'm excited to see this get done. It's not going to be done until fall of 2025 actually, but this will reconstruct Rochester Road, as I said, from Barclay to Trunway, but also this mentioned having concrete repair work done from Trunway all the way up to South Boulevard, which is something I've heard a lot from residents about. I'm sure other council members heard about it too, that Rochester Road is in rough shape. And part of that is because we want to leverage these federal dollars to get the most bang for our buck to fix the whole thing as soon as we can. So it's a long time coming, but I'm really happy to see this and support it. And it's something we really need, and we're going to keep fixing our roads.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion? I just wanted to add that on J4A, with regard to the budgeted funds for the Troy Community Coalition, I received a call from the coalition today. Typically, or in previous years, Nancy Morrison, the executive director, liked to come and thank council and thank city management, and just remind everybody in the community that the Troy Community Coalition is out there working to prevent the abuse of drug and alcohol in your children and throughout the community. And it's been so strange with COVID, they haven't been able to have their events that show a real presence in the community. They still are in our schools quite a bit, and the folks of the coalition just wanted me to remind everybody that they are still working very, very hard for their stated goal there, and that they're very thankful for the relationship they have with our police department and our city as a whole, and also that this time of year, traditionally this is when they have you sign their pledge to not abuse alcohol during this holiday season and holiday parties. So know that they're out there, and they look forward to coming back and hopefully having some community events that will shine the focus where they feel it needs to be in our community. So just wanted to get that out there for them. And that will call for the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Crainga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries. All items on the consent agenda have been approved this evening. Next up are memorandums and future council agenda items, of which there are none. Public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. There's nobody signed up, so no reply is necessary. There are no council referrals this evening. We move on to the reports. Did anybody have any comments on the one little notice report that's in there? I didn't expect so. We move on to council comments. Any council comments this evening? Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. So something that I just wanted to kind of share with the public is that on October 13th, myself, the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council Member Hoderick, all attended the 5th Annual North American Active Assailant Conference, where we received education and information about how to respond to an active shooter. And this was less than 2 months before the Oxford event. So I would first like to extend my heartfelt condolences to the family members, friends, and all those who have been affected by this horrific event. But also looking back to this conference, there were a few points that really stood out to me. One is that events such as these can have long-standing effects on those who are directly involved and the community as a whole. And I do pray for healing for Oxford and all of those who have been directly affected. Two, one commonality that a lot of these communities reported was that they felt like it could never happen here. They felt like this is a safe community, this is a good community, and nothing like this would ever happen. But unfortunately, our reality is that no community is safe, and that it's important for us not to ignore red flags. Oftentimes, there are events or things that happen leading up to the devastation there's things on social media, there's hints, there's clues, and if you see something that you feel is not right or you're concerned about it, please, please, please alert the authorities and let them handle it. The third thing was that, it's very important to seek mental health services after events such as this. It's very, very difficult for people to handle. I mean, we're dealing with a lot right now with COVID, but, on top of this, it's important that if you need support from a mental health standpoint, there's nothing wrong with asking for it. But lastly, I have been incredibly impressed by our public safety officials. The conference was attended by a number of our police officers and fire department members of the fire department, I should say. And it's important, I was very reassured that they're doing everything that they can to understand the threats that we are facing and preparing our community for any such threats. I was really struck by the fact that, when we deal with these kinds of events, we're often as civilians running out of the building, whereas the police officers and fire department is running into the building to keep us safe. So I trust that our police officers are well trained. I've been very impressed by their response and the increased security that they have had at our schools and keeping our children safe. And I also, actually before this event, I spoke with our superintendent, Dr. Macheski, as well, because that training really kind of shook me up, I would have to say. And he also assured me that they are taking every steps that they can from the Troy School District's perspective to keep our children safe as well. So just understand that, our public safety officials, our school officials, everybody's doing what we can to keep everybody safe. So I just kind of wanted to share that information.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. Additional council comments? Councilmember Chamberlain-Crankton.
Thank you, Mayor. To follow Councilmember Brooks, in that same vein, we all know we're still torn by the unspeakable of the unspeakable that has happened so close to home. And I do believe, and I want to thank Councilmember Hoderick for putting forward this proclamation, these words to just say, and we stand with Oxford. And the spirit of these words is we all need a moment to reflect, to pray, and to find in our being a connection and care for those who are just suffering directly and indirectly impacted. And so I do want to say just something for the record. Sometimes what you see after these incidents is that often people will say it's thoughts and prayers versus action. And I just really want to say for the record, it is always both. It is always both. And in my mind, all good policy really begins with the heart, with the head, and your hands. It all comes together. And I know when this happened, I reached out to city management to ask, about our school resource officers, who I know are amazing. John Julian is always someone ready to greet me with a smile when you see him at a football game or out in the community. And just to learn more and to say, is there more that we can do to support them? Because we don't have jurisdiction over the schools, but we do have these amazing 3 school resource officers, and anything more that we can do to support them, as well as that ongoing conversation around, is there more that we can do to support around if the police department, around social workers or counselors, to then also be of support to those school resource officers, and then that indirectly, of course, has an impact, in the schools as well, that I'm fully supportive. I know many of us are, not to speak for others, very supportive of all that. And I know that we can't be quick to jump to answers. I know we want to, but I do believe deeply there is a moment of prayer. I'm a person of faith. Like, I need that, a moment of silence, a moment of reflection. And again, these words are beautiful words to help us do just that. So thank you for those. And then another thing, and the mayor may share a little bit more, it was hard, a hard week, and just such, those of us who had children, they were home, and today it was beautiful. The schools, many of us are seeking to wear navy blue and try to find some gold, the colors of Oxford. And our school district today chose many of the teachers and the students to dress and to show support to the Oxford schools on that way. But still life, there are these things happening. And we did this week, we had this visit. It was kind of a last minute visit from a resident who reached out that the Consul General of Romania happened to be in town. He was doing consul affair work, and I'm grateful to the mayor, city management, Cindy Stewart, who quickly helped to put something together. It was a very brief meeting, but something I really learned, and my husband is Romanian American, but didn't recognize that we have the second largest community in the country in Metro Detroit. And in Metro Detroit, it is us, Troy. We are the real hub of that Romanian American community. So it was a great just chance to start building those ties and asking questions. How can we further engage our diverse populations around the city? So I look forward to more in the future. And today also, it's St. Nicholas Day. Those who are of Romanian background, it's a day when little kids, they celebrate St. Nicholas coming. And so to those out there, happy St. Nicholas Day. We're celebrating with my son today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Krenga. Additional council comments? I'll just briefly, it has been quite a week, and there's a lot that goes on in the city, even when tragedy is happening elsewhere, and that's from city management down to the police department. I know they've had a very busy week, not just with Oxford, but with general police work. It's a normally busy time of year anyway because of the holidays and the increased focus on retail issues and everything, but I know they're out in our community probably burning the candle at both ends. So I just want to say I know I appreciate this department very much, and I know council does too. I pretty safely can say that from here. But as always, whatever you need moving forward from what's happened at Oxford, I know we've got people who are who live there in your department, and if there's who were there on the day of to help and be there. If there's any resources that we can advocate for on your behalf, please let us know. Councilmember Hoderick and I attended a vigil at Kensington Church last night for Oxford, and it is deeply affecting our community. It's not just Oxford. It's here in Troy, and I witnessed that last night. And I know our heart bleeds for that community in Oxford because that's the kind of people we are here in Troy, but it's intensified because of the connections and the relationships we have with the region in general. This proclamation that we will see for this evening, the City of Troy and this council and city management do stand with Oxford and offer our thoughts and our prayers and our love and our attention and whatever they need to help get through this process to heal. And of course, for our residents here, we support you as well. The training that Councilmember Brooks had talked about, your first time is eye-opening and unsettling to say the least. I think Councilmember Hoderick's been a few times, and I've been a couple times, and you police folks in the back know it all too well. It's eye-opening, and something that I encourage the rest of council, if you haven't had the opportunity to go to in a future, if you can stomach it. But you can, it's necessary. And our schools, I'm very proud of the fact that I know that our schools are, and in concert with our police department, work very hard for safety of our students and our teachers. And you can never take anything for granted, obviously. But I do know that we're, in this city, working very, very hard on our students' behalfs. And I pray that something like that obviously never comes to Troy directly. But I know that the good work of our police department and the work happening in the schools, they're really doing everything they can to prevent something like that. This was a week that was heavily filled with tragedy and darkness. We also had some light here in the city of Troy that we tried to celebrate on Friday evening with the lighting of our annual Christmas tree out in Veterans Plaza. And the evening was a balance. We started with talking about Oxford some, as we couldn't not, as the Athens choir was standing behind me, and they've been all affected by it. But we did try to bring some light into this darkness as well, and had some beautiful music, and the lights are all up. So I again thank Public Works Department, Dennis and Kurt, for all your decorating. I'm sure it was the two of you out there on ladders and with your elf hats on, so we appreciate that. But you know, that's the struggle, I think, for a lot of us. Is it's a season of joy and light, or it's supposed to be, and we're sitting in darkness, and yet we have to push forward. I have to push forward for my children. I have a 9-year-old, a 14-year-old, one of them, my oldest in high school, and you know, Tuesday and Wednesday, my 9-year-old kept saying, "What's Oxford? What's Oxford?" Because all she was hearing about was everyone talking about Oxford. So, you know, how we talk to our 9-year-old versus how we talk to our high school student are two very different things. Councilmember Hodrick also brought up, just mentioned, you know, we had a public menorah lighting last night in the parking lot of the Gene Emstein Community Park with the Chabad Jewish Center of Troy. It was horrible weather, cold and rainy, but you know what? There was a good group of people out there celebrating the 8th night of Hanukkah as we lit that. It was an ice menorah. It was actually beautiful in its own way. But you know, there is a lot of light in this community, and at some point, some of the darkness will wane and we'll be focused more on the light. But in the meantime, reach out to anybody if you need help. I wish mental health was increasing as opposed to decreasing, but I sadly feel like it's decreasing, and we need to find a way to improve that. Those are my comments this evening. There's no closed session. I'm sorry, there's public comment for items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy. Nobody signed up, and no closed session. So with that, we'll adjourn this evening.